Welcome to the Full Tilt Poker $1 Million cash game from 50 London. This sensational venue, however, is more than ably matched by our poker playing talent this evening. 13 of the most famous faces in the game, all trying to outwit and outthink each other as they aim to make as much profit as possible by the end of the game. Each player is starting with a minimum of $100,000 of their own cash, and if they lose it, they can simply reach back into their pockets and buy back in. The starting lineup for this game is a who's who of poker stars. In seat 1, it's John Juanda from California, famous for tournaments, but can often be found in high-stakes, no-limit games. Seat 2 is probably one of the top 3 cash game players in the world, Jennifer Harman. She regularly plays in the big game at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. Next up is the only person to win 4 World Poker Tour titles, Gus Hansen, originally from Denmark, but now spending most of his time commuting from Monte Carlo to Las Vegas. Then the man who needs no introduction, Phil Ivey, with 5 World Series of Poker bracelets and also another regular visitor to the Bellagio's $4,000, $8,000 limit game. In seat 5, it's British pro Mark Goodwin, who reportedly makes just as much money gambling on golf with Phil Ivey as he does playing poker. In seat 6, it's Mike the Mouth Mattisau, self-confessed best player at the table. He's won over $4.2 million in tournaments, but loves the cash games just as much. Then in 7, it's the Professor, Howard Lederer, who apparently has given up playing cash games, but just a few years ago was playing in the biggest game ever with Jennifer Harman and Doyle Brunson, to name just 2. Finally in seat 8, it's billionaire retired businessman from Ireland, Alan Smurfit, who now plays poker as a hobby to some success. But who out of these players and more will take home the money and the title? Let's get straight to the action and join our commentary team of David Tuchman and Gary Jones.
The greatest poker players are here at 50 London for the Full Tilt Poker $1 Million cash game.
Here comes the Mouth himself.
Now you see, most of these players are trying to avoid playing hands out of position, but Mike Mattisau has no problem with it. Jack 10 offsuit? Okay, I'm there.
15 all to you.
Well, there's no way Gus Hansen throws away a pair in the small blinds.
Suited connectors, pair, any kind of half hand, and he's happy to play. And speaking of suited connectors, here's Mark. But one thing to note is one of the 6s for Gus Hansen's in that hand.
Oh, it's a nice start from Mark Goodwin there.
The pocket 6s are good at the moment for Gus. If he bets and Mark Goodwin calls, we'll probably see Mattisau throw this one away.
Now, Mark Goodwin hasn't played many hands. He plays it very tight. Might he be able to raise on the come?
Yeah, he might actually be able to get rid of Gus if he did raise here. This is a feeler bet from Gus. He wants to know whether his 6s are good. Doesn't want to be calling anyone else.
4,200 parks.
But he hasn't raised it. At the moment, he's got a few cards to catch. He's got a 3, a 7, and an 8. And that is one of them. And it looks like a nice card for Gus as well, because if it had been up against a 9, now we'd have an up and down straight. But as it is, he's drawing to a 7 just to split the pot.
Mark Goodwin with the absolute nuts right now.
Of course, Gus has got to try and decide what Mark Goodwin is calling him with on the flop.
Right, a lot of hands he could be calling with, obviously a 9, hearts, or in this case, 6, 7.
The way Gus plays, of course, he could have been calling with a 5 or 4. That's what Gus is obviously hoping.
10,600.
Well, Gus Hansen's going to bet 10,600 into the pot.
Now, the question is, how does Mark play this? He knows he's got the best hand right now. Does he want to leave Gus Hansen betting up front while he has position, knowing that if a blank comes on the end, he's quite likely to get another bet out of Gus, whether he's got a hand or not?
All right.
No, he's decided to put the pressure on Gus. Doesn't want to give him a free card if he's got a heart.
Now, this is interesting raise, obviously. Gus Hansen's put in a spot where he's going to have to call a raise, and he is drawing dead to chop it.
Raise of 21,000.
That's a mighty big raise, 21,000 more.
I think that's what Gus Hansen was thinking. Pot is now 46,000.
I don't know why it is.
Pass.
He's laid it down, and I don't blame him. I think he's worked out there's not really a lot there he can be in good shape against. He might have 10 outs if he's lucky. The pot's laying him 2-1. If he thinks he's up against, say, a set of 4s or set of 5s.
I don't judge. Huh? I don't judge if you want to rattle, huh?
To get started, one player has made the nominated dealer or button. Then the two players to the left post the small and big blinds. These are forced bets to get the action started. The big blind is always double the small. Unlike a tournament, the blinds stay at a set level for the whole game. In this case, $300 and $600. Plus, there's an ante of $100 per player, which must be paid if they want to play in a hand. Once the blinds and antes are posted, everyone has dealt 2 cards. We have a round of betting. Then 3 cards are placed face up on the table, called the flop. These are the community cards for all the players to use. Then we have another round of betting, after which the 4th card, the turn, is placed in the middle, followed by some more betting and the last community card, the river. Then we finish off with a final round of betting. The best 5-card hand wins the money.
David Tuchman and Gary Jones here. Chris Ferguson, 2000 World Series of Poker main event champion, looking on. Jesus there, with his trademark long hair and his hat. And we are 7-handed here right now. We're playing short. One of the players has actually gotten up and taken a break, which happens often in cash games. And when you're short-handed, obviously you've got to adapt and adjust to playing against fewer opponents.
Yeah, it makes a big difference depending on how many players are around the table, your relative hand values. Hands like King Jack in the middle position is suddenly a raising hand rather than maybe it wasn't before. Looks like Howard Lederer is going to take a break, pick up his chips and leave the table for a while. He's probably decided to let Chris Ferguson come in, and we're going to get someone who's won 2 World Series bracelets and 2 WPT titles getting up and making way for a world champion in Chris Ferguson.
As if the lineup wasn't tough enough already, here we have 2000 World Series Poker champion Chris Ferguson.
Not an awful lot of familiarity playing this kind of stakes cash though, Chris. So it's going to be interesting to see how he settles down, whether he wants to try and mix it up, or as I expect, I think he's probably going to sit back and play this one quite tight. Not get involved too much. It'll probably be pretty well the same as when we had Howard Lederer in that spot. Not doing anything too creative.
I spoke to him earlier and he assured me, because poker is poker.
Yeah, it doesn't make a great deal of difference whether you're playing tournaments or cash. You're still making reads. Still about understanding players. And here's Jennifer Harman with Ace-King.
Jennifer Harman, our big winner so far.
Are you riding the broom on me already?
Wow.
Yep, she's raised it up.
Look at these cards. I call.
But you didn't notice, right?
Phil's called.
It's the Mad Hatter.
You don't think I know
The Mad
that?
Hatter has joined us.
I should have made it 20-something.
Mark Goodwin's in as well with his 9-10. So's Mike with his 5-3.
Wow, and there's a set for Phil Ivey.
Check. Check. $4.5.
Well, it's definitely the best hand right now.
Yeah, he doesn't slow play it. He bets it right away.
Best way to get some money.
Raising 15.
Mattisau raises it up here. He's got bottom pair and a gut shot straight draw.
Wow, that's a big bet with that kind of a hand. He's obviously trying to push Phil off the pot. Everyone else is cleared out the way. And left it open for these two to do battle. So far, Mike's got the better of these battles, but right now he's drawing pretty slim.
Well, right now there's only two hands that either can lose to. A set of sevens or 5-6.
Raise. $30.
30 more to the mouth.
Now Ivy has re-raised him. He is out of position. He can't really afford to check it.
Yeah, he can't afford to play this one too slow, Phil.
No.
Oh my God.
30. 32.
Mike's asked him how much more has he got. Nope, he releases. I think the whole how much more have you got was just a
Did you have aces, Phil? No, I didn't.
bit of colourful commentary from Mike. I don't think he ever intended to call that 30,000.
No, he raised the original bet by Phil Ivey to see where he was at. When he gets re-raised, he finds out exactly where he is.
The button is not right.
But here.
So as Alan Smurfit prepares to leave the table, someone else will step into his shoes. Join us after the break to find out who it is. Welcome back. One of the world's best, Alan Cunningham, now prepares to take his place at the table. Let's see how he gets on as we rejoin our commentary team of David Tuckman and Gary Jones.
There's a space at the table, and look who's waiting to come in. It's Alan Cunningham, fourth at the 2006 World Series of Poker main event.
Also the 2005 World Series of Poker Player of the Year. He's really had a phenomenal run.
He certainly has.
And pass.
So Howard, how's the table playing out there?
Well, you know, we had a few big hands early, and then it seemed like the cards maybe quieted down a little bit. I mean, you know, we've had our share of pots. The last pot I played where I lost 15,000, two people flopped two pair, at least according to what people say at the table, I believe them. And I guess Gus either flopped a set or a straight, so that was a pretty big pot. So we've had some fireworks, but you know, we've also had a lot of quiet hands.
And a raise. Raise of 37. 4-3 total. Pass.
We've got a raise of 3,700 here from Mark Goodwin. He's got raised up to 4,300. That's a big, big raise. He doesn't want to get a caller.
Pass. Pardon.
But Phil's decided to call.
And we've got ourselves a big pot here, 10,800 before the flop.
5, 8, 4.
And that's not a bad flop for Phil.
Not at all. I mean, there's no reason to think your sixes aren't good here.
3,002.
Really puts him in a tough spot.
It's only 3,200 with 10,000 already in the middle.
And called.
He's definitely not going to get rid of him for that price.
2. Check. Check.
An additional straight card. And once again, Mark gives a free card. And once again, he's got away with it. And it might actually get him a bet. A call, rather.
Mark Goodwin playing it very conservatively.
6-3.
Phil Ivey picked up a lot of outs there on the turn. Any 3, any 7, or any 6 would have done it for him.
Phil just can't see a hand. He can check on the turn and then bet on the river. That's why he's going to call. The unorthodox player, Mark Goodwin, is going to get him a payday on the river. So a nice pot. Goes to the Englishman, Mark Goodwin.
That's what makes these players so great, is that they are so unpredictable. You never really know what they have.
It's really exciting to play in such a big game. I don't think I've ever played a no-limit game quite this high. I've played some limit games that are probably comparable. But they're all excellent players, and it's a huge game. It should be really exciting. I don't feel guilty against winning against these guys because they're all great players, and they've all been there 1,000 times before and won and lost plenty, and I know they're trying to all win my money. So it's really just a game, and there are never any hard feelings between some of the good players.
In the small blind there is Alan Cunningham, just come to the table, sitting next to the 2000 World Series of Poker champion, Chris Jesus Ferguson. Of course, when Chris won it in 2000, he got $1.5 million. Alan Cunningham just came 4th at the 2006 World Series of Poker Championship, where he won $3.6 million. Amazing, the explosion that poker's experienced over the last few years. The money now is just incredible.
Yeah, Alan Cunningham has been on absolute fire. 2005 and 6 have really been his years.
He is a phenomenal player who's had a great couple of years. And he's actually got quite a lot of experience in high-stakes cash games as well. So here's Mike taking his customary walk around. We have 3 players here for the flop. Gus, Phil, and Mark.
4-2.
Gus having a pop with his jack high, hoping that no one else has got any of this.
Called.
Wow.
Pass.
I was about to say he's in luck because nobody else has anything, but Ivey's going to call anyway. Maybe setting up a play for the turn.
He's actually caught a card that he can go in front with.
Well, now, Gus has actually picked up additional outs here. He can catch an 8 or a queen to make the nut
That's actually
straight.
not a bad card for Gus.
Check.
They've both gone check, check.
Ace.
Of course, Phil might have been calling to bluff the turn, but once he's caught the 9, he now actually has a hand he can check down. And it's going to send Gus's head spinning to see him having hit this. I think if I was Phil now, I'd be prepared to check it just to send him on tilt.
6,000.
You can even not even beat that hand.
Pass.
What, Queen Jack? You can't even beat the Queen Jack.
And you anti-space.
Here we are with the ranking of the hands. First we have high card. In this case, a king high would win it. Then we have 1 pair. In this case, pair of aces. Then 2 pair. Jacks and 9s will do it. Then 3 of a kind. 3 of the same one. 3 4s. Then we have a straight. 5 cards in order, not the same suit. Then a flush. 5 cards, the same suit. 5 hearts will do it. Then we have a full house. 3 7s, 2 kings. This would be 7s full of kings. 4 of a kind. 4 kings. Then we have a straight flush, 5 cards in order, all the same suit. And here's the most beautiful hand in the world. Royal flush, 10, 2 ace, all the same suit.
I'd hate to think how much money has been won between the players around the table, not just in tournament winnings, but we have some of the best cash game players anywhere in the world sat around this table. And they are going at it.
18 to call. Pass.
There's Chris Ferguson passing once again. Someone really should dust him off. I don't think he's actually volunteered a single chip to a pot yet.
Well, you pointed out correctly, Chris Ferguson really a tournament player. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to a cash game.
I think we've already seen how he's going to adapt to the cash game. He's going to lose the minimum is basically what his plan is.
That's what I said. I've figured they'll find
3.
No, I ain't sharing.
King.
No? I share with Gus, but not you.
Check.
We've got a bit of a... Both of them are flop top pair. Both of them are checking it.
Well, Hold'em is a game of kickers here.
They don't save any for like the high.
And in this case, Phil Ivey's got the best of them with the 10 kicker.
The aunts don't care. The aunts sell out.
So, King 10 for Phil, King 5 for Gus, who probably thinks he's winning right now after they both checked the flop. Is he lining up for a raise?
Cool. A raise to 8,000 total.
A small raise.
And called.
Phil calls straight away.
If I find somebody to share it with, I will.
10.
Well, whether Phil was worried about his kicker or not, I don't think he is anymore.
And the raise of 10,000, the bet of 10.
Is there any value to Phil raising this? No, not really. He's a bit worried it might have been a set after a check on the flop, maybe. He calls. And kings and 10s for Phil.
Kings and 10s, 2 bets.
So Phil gets the better of the Great Dane in this pot.
Phil Ivey now our big winner, up $29,900. Jennifer Harmon in second place, up $26,700. John Jawanda still pulling up the rear. He's down $42,000 today.
Yeah, he was down a little bit more than that. Looks like he's slowly crawling back.
We're at 50 London for the Full Tilt Poker $1 Million Cash Game. I'm David Tuckman. Here with me is Gary Jones. We've got 2 new players in the game. We have Erik Seidel and Roland de Wolf. Gary, what do you know about Roland and Erik Seidel?
Well, it's kind of someone who's been very, very good in the past. Erik Seidel, he's made an awful lot of money, even before kind of the internet boom took over and made poker as popular as it is today. Roland de Wolf is kind of the opposite. He's someone who's only come into his own over the last couple of years, doing very well in both 2005 and 2006. He really is kind of the face of the new poker. So it'll be interesting to see how these two adapt to playing cash games, because both of them have had most of their success in tournaments. But I played with Erik a little bit in cash games, and he can play a cash as well as tournaments. So I'm not expecting him to give anything away. And look at who we've got at this table with us. We've got Gus Hansen and Phil Ivey sitting next to each other. 2 of the biggest faces in poker.
Danny. Pass.
Buttons in front of Mike Matusow now.
Pass.
Erik and Roland are going to sit out for the first hand. Here's Mark Goodwin. So far, he's had the best of the early action in this cash game. He's up about $34,000. Raise it up from Mark Goodwin, and a call from Mike Matusow. Good suited connectors there for Mike, and he's got the button.
Well, Matusow's out-flopped Goodwin here.
Check.
He's got top pair.
And Mark hasn't had a stab at it.
4,200.
Well, once he's checked it, you think he's going to give this one up.
No, clearly, once he checks, he's giving it up. Now, Goodwin's our big winner today, but he's played it really conservative.
Yeah, he was a little bit erratic the very first hand, but since then, I think he's done very good.
Yeah.
You have to call it before the turn card hits, by the way. The turn card
Any other rules I need to know?
Well, I would have paid you because you didn't know.
Pass.
You know what I mean?
So that one goes to Mike.
You have to realize it. And you have to call it and say, okay, that's my problem.
The main difference between a cash game and tournament poker is that in a cash game, sometimes when you put $100,000 in a pot, it's your own money. And in a tournament, when you put 100,000 chips in a pot, a lot of times you bought in for 10,000, 5,000, whatever the buy-in might be. So it's not really that big of a deal when you lose the pot. It hurts a lot more in a cash game when you lose 100,000 in your own money.
I think cash games you can actually make more money, because in tournaments you really need to make it far to make good money playing tournaments.
The art of cash games in my mind is to forget that it's actually money. It's just a tool, and these are just tokens, and you're just betting with them, but you don't actually think, that's a nice car I'm just calling with here, or that's a lovely family holiday or something like that.
I think the true poker players are the poker players that excel and enjoy and do well in multiple forms of the game.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my last. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So I had to call.
Oh, you played here before, being a USA Poker.
Oh, wow. Wow. I had to share
I don't believe that. Wow, you might lose some sponsorship.
Pass.
It's expensive share.
Pass.
The players certainly seem to be enjoying themselves. Plenty of conversation going on down there. Golfing buddies, Phil Ivey and Mark Goodwin.
2,200 to play.
Gus Hansen raising it up with his Queen Jack of Hearts.
Pass.
Looking good so far.
2,200.
Quack. I was used to that bit by now. Oh my God.
I don't think Mike's ever not defended his big blind.
All right,
Well, Mike's caught the ace, but there's a flush draw here for Gus.
Okay, it's an interesting flop.
All of us could take a suit too. So it comes up hearts.
4,100 to play.
All three. That's 10,000.
Bet from Mike. Putting the pressure on the Dane, hoping his ace is good.
9, 10 queens, my
Tough spot for Mattisau here. He doesn't have much of a kicker.
Yeah, but he has put the pressure on Gus. It's going to be a question of how Gus wants to play this one. Is he going to put more pressure back onto Mike? He is the pre-flop raiser. This does look like a find out where I am kind of bet. Putting the pressure back on him.
Raising 13.
Mark gets out the way, leaves it to these two. Well, that looks like a call to me. It's a brave.
Check.
7 doesn't help Mike's hand.
Gus Hansen with the strong semi-bluff on the flop. Mattisau calls him though. And you wonder now, if you're Gus Hansen, do you take the free card on the turn?
If he checks, he knows he's probably going to have to catch his flush to win this pot. If he bets 25, 30,000, it would take one big call from Mike Mattisau with ace with a 3 kicker.
Really would.
Okay.
And he takes the card.
Yeah, he's decided to take the free card. Ooh.
Well, now if you're Mattisau, you really can't beat anything. You can't beat a big ace. You can't beat the flush.
The only thing you can beat is a bluff on the flop.
Exactly.
Be interesting to see if Mike tries what's called a stop bet here. Bet small. Doesn't want to call a 25, 30,000 bet from Gus, so he puts 10,000 out there. What he should probably do is check fold here.
Definitely not a bad play. The pot's 42,000. Maybe you put out a $10,000 bet, almost naming your price for a showdown. 20.
Well, his stop bet's a bit bigger than mine would have been. It's 20,000.
That's good.
Can't see him not calling this one though, David.
No, clearly he's going to call, but is there any value to raising it? Remember, there is a paired board.
I really can't see him raising it either. But then, Gus does a few things that the rest of us might not. Caution certainly isn't his middle name.
Obviously, he can't beat the king high flush, and he can't beat a full house. If Mattisau had, say, a set of sevens or a set of nines here, or somehow had pocket aces.
He's moved his chips all in.
Wow. Well, what do we know? As Gus Hansen moves all his chips in there. Pot is now $144,000. $144,000 pot here. And now Mattisau is thinking, is this guy bluffing me? Could he be bluffing me?
Well, what's going through Mike Mattisau's mind here? He's checked the turn, Gus. How can he check the turn and then move all in against me once the deuce comes?
Well, the interesting play is, you normally wouldn't think somebody with a flush draw would make this move.
Exactly. Well, he's mucked it. Gus wins a nice pot. Very nice pot.
This is full and nothing else. When you play poker, you're trying to make the best decisions based on the information you have, and really the amount should be fairly insignificant. I mean, it should matter. You shouldn't be careless, but you shouldn't base your decisions on whether you could buy a car or half a car or 2 cars for the amount. You should base your decision on what's the best move I can make here.
So Gus Hansen continues to rack up the chips. Can anybody catch him? Find out after the break.
The action here is intense at 50 London. The button is in front of Eric Seidel. Gus Hansen in the big blind. Phil Ivey's first to act.
We're going to kick this game up, right out the mud here.
Bill lays it down. Mark Goodwin looks like he's called.
Pass.
Yeah, Mark's in with his Queen King of Diamonds.
Pass. Pass.
Eric calls for 600 on the button with his 10 jack.
It's a good hand on the button.
And he makes up the big blind with his 9 jack, Roland. That leaves just Gus Hansen.
Oh, and Gus Hansen's picked up a couple of ladies here. Now, how do you play this in the big blind?
Well, he probably doesn't want to leave too many people in this pot. He's going to be out of position against anyone but Roland de Wolf, so I'd expect quite a decent size bet.
And he does that. Now, a lot of ways to play pocket queens here. You can definitely slow play him and kind of disguise you're holding in a cash game, or play him strong like Gus Hansen has.
Well, that's a raise of 5,000. That's playing them strong.
Clearly, Gus Hansen does not want to see a flop here.
He certainly doesn't want to see a flop four-handed. But that's a call there from Mark Goodwin. And he's in pretty bad shape. He does not want to see a queen-high flop.
No, if the case queen were to come out, Goodwin would be in trouble.
Ooh, one overcard to Gus's queens, and it's the one he did not want to see. It's a king.
Was he? No, I said you have no chance of sleeping. You're like, one more.
No, obviously Goodwin way ahead, and we can see that. But he's obviously got to be scared of ace king.
10,200.
Well, that's a big bet from Gus. If Mark flat calls this, which he has, there's a chance Gus might think he's still in good shape. It wouldn't be unheard of for Mark to call, we say, pocket 9s or 10s in this spot. One overcard.
Thanks for mentioning it. In case somebody
Pot is now $33,000. The Great Dane way behind. He's going to need one of the. He's going to need the king.
He goes
call.
check, check. That's the card that neither player would like to see.
Actually, Goodwin's actually backed into a flush now.
Oh yes, he's come into a backdoor diamond flush. He took his free card on the turn.
15,000.
Not much Hansen can beat out there. He can't beat the king, he can't beat an ace, can't beat a 3, and he can't beat the diamonds.
The point, what probably going through his mind here is what could Mark have called with on the flop that he can bet on the river? Ace king is about the only hand, really.
Well, he could also, remember, he could have had busted heart draw. He could have called him with a heart draw, missed it, and now he has to fire at it. Maybe that's what Gus is thinking.
That's what's going through Gus's mind.
It's like the worst call ever.
I'm absolutely certain you'll make worse.
So am I.
Of that, there's no doubt.
I really think that Gus just can't believe there's a hand that he can bet here that he's called on the flop with. Is he slow playing aces? It's going to be very easy for him to give a middle pair and call this back.
You see him shaking his head in disbelief because he can't really figure it out. Obviously, always hard to see those backdoor diamonds. Pot is $48,000.
God, can't even take a break after this.
He's decided to call. I think he's given Mark a medium pair or a busted heart flush draw. That's the one hand he probably hasn't thought about. And that is a very good pop for Mark Goodwin.
Wow, great pot there. Mark Goodwin is now our big winner, up to 163,000. There it is. Mark Goodwin up 63,000 for the day. Phil Ivey in second place with 34,000. Gus Hansen gives a lot of his winnings away now. He's only up 13. And Matisow is our big loser. He's down 34,000. Buttons in seat number 2. Phil Ivey in the big blind here. Action is on. Mark Goodwin. Mark's not going to play.
Matisow has a reach for, he's just calling the 600.
Well, Matisow's got king, queen off suit here.
It's not a bad hand to play. That, on the other hand, is a very nice hand to play.
Yeah, I think the 2005 World Series Poker Player of the Year, Alan Cunningham, is going to play that.
I tell you what, even I would play that hand. I don't think you have to be the 2005. I'm not saying I played as well, but I would play it. Phil's in as well.
Well, in a deep stack, no limit cash game, this is the kind of hand you want. Snap off a big hand. And
that's a great first card for Phil.
And now the question is, Alan Cunningham was a great player. Can he get away from pocket aces?
There's $11,600 in the pot right now. And we have a big pot brewing.
And I love the bet by Ivey here. He bets right into the razor.
And Alan knows he'd do this with so many hands.
Pot is now $21,000 here. Phil Ivey and Alan Cunningham, they know each other extremely well.
15,000 to play.
And Ivey has bet 15,000 right into the 2 red aces. And what do you do if you're Cunningham here?
Alan has already shown that he's got an overpair to the board. That's what his call on the flop represents. And yet Phil still keeps one afire. Alan's got to know that it might be on him at the moment.
Pot is now $51,000. And the river is certainly not an action killer. The 10 of spades falls. But now it's just a question of value betting. How much can you bet here? Can you bet half the pot? Can you bet 25,000? Can you bet more?
We're about to see what one of the best players in the world would bet in this situation.
He's done a great job of building himself a big pot. And this is the reason you play pocket deuces, so you can snap off these big hands. Phil Ivey's so deliberate with every move he makes.
What'd you bet?
35.
That's exactly what I thought you were supposed to bet. Good play. Play alike.
I think Gus saw the 35,000 coming before any of the others. He's on Phil's right. The question now, of course, is can Alan lay down the aces?
Now the pot is 86,000. It's 35,000 to call. And at this point, you know, is there any way that Ivey had, say, pocket queens, pocket kings. If he was betting a straight draw, the 10
well,
gets
he's
there.
laid it down. That is why he's the 2005 Player of the Year. Alan Cunningham got away from the aces. I say get away from. He still managed to lose over 20,000 in the pot, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Great play there from Alan.
Absolutely amazing. 99% of the poker players in the world would have lost their entire stack there with the aces, or at least another 35,000. Alan Cunningham shows us why he's so great. I mean, that was phenomenal.
So here's the leaderboard for the top 3 players, and English pro Mark Goodwin has moved up with $60,000 in profit, but Phil Ivey is right on his heels, and with such big blinds, the game is still very much open.
So that's it from 50 London. The action at the table really hotting up, and we'll hope you join us again next time when one of these players will bid to become the Full Tilt Poker $1 Million Cash Game champion of 2006. But from all of us for now, it's goodbye.